Good evening, and thank you for joining us for Woodside's Registration Night. Uh, my name is Francisco Negri. I'm one of the co-head counselors, and I will be presenting alongside three of my amazing colleagues, Miss Jeanette Locke, school counselor, uh, school counselor Mr. Eli Thornton, and joining us this evening as well is my other co-head counselor, Jackie Grimaldi. So we're going to go ahead and get started. And the goal for tonight is really to help you folks get an understanding of how registration works and how your students will select classes. We are a team here at Woodside, comprised of 6 school counselors, 3 college advisors, 2 guidance information specialists, and a registrar. We do work together, which means that if your student's counselor isn't available, another counselor will step in at any time. But your student's team is going to be comprised of 1 school counselor and 1 college advisor that's assigned for them for all 4 years. You can see that we're linked together. So if you have Miss Locke or Mr. Thornton who are here tonight, you would be assigned to Mr. Gill as your college advisor, as well as Ms. Grimaldi and myself are assigned, our students are assigned to Ms. Vasquez as their college advisor, and Mr. Cortez and Mr. Hernandez are assigned to Ms. Maudeville. So we do work together as a team, but these folks are the folks that will follow your students all 4 years and be able to assist them with anything, get to know your students to be able to best serve them. Now, so our goals for tonight is really to understand the timeline for registration, when things are going to happen, so that you're aware of that. And then it's going to go into course selection information and tools that you might need to be able to help your students select courses for next year. And then finally, to be able to check and see if the courses that you've talked about, that you've worked with your students on, are they the actual courses that they selected? So there's a couple different ways we go about making sure that the courses that students select are correct. And we hope that by the end of tonight, you'll understand all of that. If you see, we're going to, oh, I'm sorry. You're going to see, we're going to email out the slide deck, and you'll see the little link at the bottom here. That's going to be an indication that there's information within the slide deck that you can click on and see. All the information as well lives on the school website, so you could absolutely access everything there as well. Okay. All right. So let's dive in. Let's dive in first to the timeline. School counselors have been presenting in classrooms. We've actually been teaching students the graduation requirements, the college entrance requirements. We've helped 10th graders understand why they're in the classes they're in, as well as what classes they might aspire to take. Um, as We also have met with 9th graders, and we're just finishing up uh, being able to show them not only the graduation requirements and the college entrance requirements, but they're actually starting the process to be able to select classes for next year. Now, these are all preliminary selections because our hope is to get the students really thinking about what's happening, so that they can really seek out guidance from their teachers, from the college advisors, from you as parents and guardians, to be able to make the best selections possible. Now, I failed to mention, but I want to just mention that if you have questions related to anything we're speaking about, you can use the Q&A feature, and we will be answering questions as we go. If there are questions that we feel are going to be universal to everybody, we'll answer the questions while we're live and speaking. So please use the Q&A for any questions you might have. Now, students have selected classes within their classrooms as we are teaching in the classroom, but that's only the first moment that they are thinking about this, the first moment they're selecting. We actually meet with students a little bit later in March and April to be able to pick classes officially. And that is the opportunity to sit down one-on-one with your students to be able to look at what they're aspiring to do, what their goals are for high school and beyond, and help guide them in the course selection using um, a bunch of factors, data points like how they're doing in classes, how they're keeping up with their work, how interested they are in the different subject areas. So that's why counselors meet with students individually to be able to select classes. That'll also be the first time that we send something home in the student's hands for you to be able to see what happened. We also pick classes for summer school at that time. So if a student needs to make up a specific requirement that they fell short in, got a D or didn't pass, we will help them pick classes for summer school. Once courses are picked, your students have an opportunity to change courses through a um, basically a link that they can log on and request changes. Now, any changes for electives, we usually just do as long as they're meeting the requirements. But if they're courses that are changing kind of their course of study, those are things that we'll reach out, connect with parents, connect with students, to be able to make sure that the selection that they're choosing is one with all the information. And then finally, in May, our online information update will open. And that's an opportunity for families, for parents and guardians to log on, confirm that we have all your information in the computer, and then at the same time be able to finalize the course selection. So you'll be able to see your students' courses there, and you'll be able to give us, hey, I want to change this for my student, or this is the request that we're making. So you'll be able to do that all the way till May 25th through the online information update. And then at that point, it's the end. So your student actually had 3 different points to be able to change courses, and those are open windows to be able to do so. So, the registration timeline, you can see we start with 11th graders. We will start on the 13th of this month, and we will meet with 11th graders individually to be able to plan out their courses for next year, to be able to pick summer school, as well as make sure that they have all the useful information they need in preparation for senior year. What are they going to do this summer? What types of internships are available? We're going to go through all that kind of stuff. What courses they need to make up to make themselves more eligible for a 4-year college directly from high school, or for a program offered through the community colleges, a work study program, whatever it may be that they aspire to do. We'll meet with 10th graders shortly after, and then we'll finish up with 9th graders. The reason why we do this is the 11th graders and the 10th graders have been through this and kind of understand the process. 9th graders, we want to have as much information as possible. And so going a little bit later in the semester doesn't ruin or lose their chances to be able to select classes. It's open to all students while registration is happening. It's not first come, first serve. Um, but what it does give us an opportunity to do is look at quarter grades, look at progress grades, all those things to be able to best advise students on how to select classes. So I'm going to take this opportunity to then turn it over to Mr. Thornton to be able to take us through course selection.
All right. Good evening, everyone. So as Mr. Negri just mentioned, we've met with students one-on-one. 11th graders, we're going to meet with February 13th through the 10th. 10th graders, we're going to meet with March 14th through the 24th, and then 9th graders we'll meet with on the 25th through the April 4th. And then from there, there's going to be a Google form that's going to be available where students can make changes through all the way through April 28th. And then there's something called the online information update, which will be the last opportunity for people to be able to make changes. And that will be open from May 1st through May 25th. And parents will just be required to confirm those courses during that time. And just taking a look here, this is just a list of all of our graduation requirements compared to our A through G requirements. So we just did a 9th grade lesson. for students and a 10th grade lesson for students. And this was a quick reminder for us to be able to talk to them about this. So you'll see on that left-hand side, I won't go over every single detail, but you'll see all the graduation requirements all the way down. Probably the biggest difference between the graduation requirements and the A through G requirements, or basically 4-year university requirements, is the minimum grade that you can receive. So for graduation, the minimum grade that you can get technically is a D minus. We never strive for D minuses, right? But if a student does get a D minus, technically they earn credit in that class. They'll earn 5 credits. But if they're thinking about going to a Cal State or UC, they do need to at least get a C minus or above in those classes. And then the other big difference between Cal States compared to UCs is that for Cal States, minimum GPA is a 2.5. And then for UC, it's a 3.0. So those are kind of the biggest differences that we see between the three. But we just make sure that if a student did just so happen to get a D or an F in a class, we'll meet with those students. We'll talk to them about summer school, and we'll also set them up with maybe our online credit recovery program, but mainly we'll usually do that through summer school. So those are some options just in case a student did get a D or an F, there are opportunities to retake those classes. All right, so a typical student schedule. So this is just an example of 10th grade schedule. So a student for graduation, if they're thinking about just maybe going to maybe a community college and then transferring, or if they're thinking about the military or maybe one of the trades, or just maybe just graduating and then maybe working after. For graduation, their class schedule might look like an English class, a world history, a math, science, PE, and then an elective class. It could be any elective. It could be a world language. It could be maybe a ceramics class or a foods and nutrition class, kind of anything that they might be interested in there. But if they are thinking about going to a 4-year university, we do recommend that they do a world language, because that is one of the requirements for a 4-year university. You have to do at least 2 years, or technically getting to the second level. So we have some students that speak French, or maybe they speak Mandarin, or maybe they speak Spanish, and they get into that second level automatically because they have a higher proficiency. And with those students, technically that they meet the requirement of the 2 years, but we still recommend at least 3 or 4 years for students and getting to that third and fourth level if they're able to. But that's just a quick example between graduation and college, the main difference being that world language class there. So a couple things to be aware of. Courses will be changed automatically with completion of a Woodside High School summer school course. So for instance, if a student maybe didn't pass a second semester of Algebra 1, and they're taking that class over the summer, we won't automatically repeat that class if they've retaken it and got a C minus or above, or technically a D minus or above, but usually a C minus or above. We'll go ahead and automatically change that student into geometry or whatever that next course is, as long as they complete it over the summer. Students should be enrolled in PE unless there's a plan to make up a PE class in another way, right? One way would be through a sport. Some students can, starting sophomore year, PE sports can start counting towards PE credit. So let's take, for instance, if a student's really interested in tennis, they could do tennis their sophomore year, junior year, and then senior year. Those 3 seasons starting 10th grade would meet that requirement that they would traditionally do if they were in the 10th grade PE class. So that's one way. There's other ways too, but that's mainly the 2 ways: is either taking a PE class, a um, uh, or doing a sport. Those would be the 2 different ways there. 9th through 11th grade students should be enrolled in at least 6 courses. And then 12th graders, the minimum number of courses they could be in is 5 courses. All right, so a quick introduction to how students can actually select courses. So this is what we did with our 10th and our 9th grade students. We went into the classrooms, we went through all the graduation requirements, we talked about all the different electives that we offered, all that kind of stuff. And then we had students log in, and then they actually inputted those courses that they selected into Infinite Campus. And then our 9th grade students, they actually created an entire 4-year plan. So they didn't only have classes for just their sophomore year, but also junior and senior year. But taking a look here, you'll notice that you'll go to portal.seq.org. They'll click on campus student, and then they'll log in with their student number and then their initials and then 6-digit birthday. That's their password. And then they just log in through campus student, and then they'll be able to make any changes through Infinite Campus. And then looking at the course registration process here, we talked about that first step of students logging in. That second step that you'll see there is the academic planner on that left-hand column there. Students will click on that academic plan, and then once they click on academic plan, they can actually start entering in those classes. So sometimes it could be a little bit confusing, but if you ever have any questions, please reach out to your school counselor and we'll be happy to help out. But you'll enter those classes here with step number 4, and you can kind of get a look of what that looks like. So a couple big things that you'll notice that I always see students get a little bit of hiccups with is more so that third level of a world language. Every other world language, level 1 and 2, will be under electives, but third level will be under CTE, since it does count towards that CTE or career technical education requirement for graduation. But students would just kind of go down the line with their English, their math, their history, science class, whatever electives that they select, and that PE class if they're a 10th grader, and selecting those classes to make sure that they have at least 6 classes, and then they can do 7 classes, which we might go over in just a little bit about what some of those 7th classes or options are for those students. And I'll hand it over to my colleague, Miss Locke, and she'll finish off with the last few slides here.
All right, thank you, Mr. Thornton. So in looking over the academic plan, one really important thing to know for each grade level, through 9th, 10th, and 11th grade, all students have to have at least 6 classes. So it's really important to count the number of classes that students have selected. What's also required is that students actually also have to choose 2 alternate classes. And so if a student picks an elective, especially really popular electives like ceramics, foods and nutrition, or just any type of elective, students should plan to choose elective classes, alternate classes for those electives. Among those 6 classes, students should have English and history, because those are graduation requirements and requirements for college. We are required to pass every semester of an English and history course. We strongly encourage all students to have math, science, and world language in order to stay competitive for college. And also because the third level of the world language can also qualify for graduation requirements. So of those 6 classes students choose, they need the 6 plus the 2 alternates. And then have PE, or at least a plan to complete PE. If your student is currently a freshman and they failed PE this year, they will be required to take PE again next year. If they pass PE this year, there are a number of other ways to fulfill the PE requirements, including the sports or possibly a community college class. And then students should also be able to identify whether they are on track for A to G or for graduation. Students who are on track for graduation will have passed their classes with D minuses or higher. Students who are on track for A to G will have passed their classes with a C minus or higher, and ensure that they at least start a language class, hopefully in their sophomore year. We have a number of resources on our school website to help you kind of understand the types of course offerings here. These are individual links, and in a moment, I'll also show you where to find these items on the Woodside website. The first item is our course catalog. If you click on the hyperlink, you'll find that our course catalog is currently the 24-25 course catalog, so courses that are offered this year. I don't know if actually you can view the expansion, but you can click through and there's descriptions of our graduation requirements. This is the same 4-year plan document that students were able to view, as well as our electives, and then followed by descriptions of all of our different courses, so that you can read up on the courses that are offered here and what types of graduation requirements they meet. In addition to the course catalog, a really helpful tool for students is our rigor matrix. We've spent extensive time surveying students over the years to ask them how much time they spend on homework when they're taking advanced classes, or just classes in general. So an example for a student who's trying to choose between English 2 versus AS English 2, you'll find the description of how rigorous the course is, how much homework the teacher is expecting that students are completing, and then a poll of students, how much time they're actually reporting for homework. So for example, these are numbers for every other day because we're on that block schedule. So this would not be 20 to 60 minutes of English homework every day of the week, 5 days a week. This would be every other day. For example, if English met on A days, it would be 20 to 60 minutes on A days, and then so on and so forth for all of these other classes. These are organized by subjects. So you'll find English, math, and followed by science. And then you will find social studies, and then our languages and elective classes at the very bottom. So this is a good tool for students to kind of click through the rigor matrix in order to understand how much homework they can handle. We like to have students really understand that their time outside of the school day includes not just homework, but also family time, time to devote to their extracurriculars, whether that's sports or family commitments. And then also just time to relax, take care of mental health, and then be a high school student. And so we encourage students to kind of count up the number of minutes they feel like they can handle in terms of homework. And that might be one factor in contributing to whether they want to take advanced courses or not. And that would be in some additional data points in addition to the conversations that students are already having with their peers, older students, with their teachers, and of course, you as parents or guardians. We also have, as was mentioned earlier, a hyperlink to the graduation A to G requirements that you can review to ensure that students are on track with the minimum graduation requirements, and then as well as the minimum and recommended A to G requirements. These resources are all available on our school website. So actually, if you go to the Woodside website, and you go under guidance and counseling, you'll find the course catalog is the fourth drop-down menu. And then if you hover to the right, you'll find the homework rigor matrix. A really helpful tool is also the graduation requirements course offerings. There's actually a bunch of links on this page. This would be the graduation requirements. This is the list of eligible 7th courses. So Mr. Thornton earlier alluded to students generally take 6 classes. If they take a 7th course, not necessarily the 7th period in the day, but just a 7th course on their schedule, it has to be among these courses that's on this list. So if they are interested in 7 courses, they just have to make sure at least one of those courses shows up over here. And that is once again available on the Woodside website. That particular one is under graduation requirements course offerings under a list of eligible 7th courses. We also have images of math pathways. I expect this will get updated soon as well as our science offerings, because these are currently all the 23-24 offerings. We will be updating this soon to reflect next school year's offerings. As well as just a list of all of our elective courses and what graduation requirement they might meet over here. And with that, that kind of takes us to the end of our registration. If you have additional questions, please feel free to drop them in the Q&A and we will try to answer them as we can.
Ms. Locke, there is one question that maybe we can answer out loud. The question is, can you speak about the difference between AS and AP classes? For example, AS chemistry was offered this year, but next year I understand AP chemistry is an option.
Yeah, so AS classes are our advanced standing classes. AP classes are advanced placement with the College Board. Unfortunately, AP chemistry is not an option next year for students. We will still be offering AS chemistry. AS chemistry does offer the GPA bump, so that an A is worth a instead of a 4.0 is worth 5.0, and the GPA, a B is worth a 4.0, and then a C is a 3.0. AS Chemistry is the only AS class that receives the that GPA bump. But unfortunately, we will not be offering AP Chemistry. College Board does not allow us, I believe, to offer both AP Chemistry and AS Chemistry at the same time.
We had a question asking about PE, specifically if students need permission to take PE classes at Kenyatta during the school year, or can they just sign up? Students have to sign up through their school counselor. So they actually sign up at the community college, but then get permission by the school counselor. So it's in unison. They'll have to do some part on their own and some part the school counselor will do. In most circumstances, students will come to us and we'll guide them through the process of registering if they haven't done that before. But it is students initiating, counselors approving.
There's also a question, does the community college class, like a Kenyatta class, count for a semester of high school or a year? This is actually a pretty tricky question because I think if we're speaking about graduation requirements, Kenyatta classes on the semester system, like classes at Kenyatta, College of San Mateo, or Skyline College, because they're on the semester system, a 3-unit Kenyatta CSM Skyline course would convert to 5 Woodside credits. So a 3-unit college course in that case would be only 1 semester at Woodside, whereas if it was a 4 or 5-unit community college course on the semester system, it would actually translate to 10 Woodside credits. If it's I believe it's a 1-unit, so a 1 to 3-unit community college course on the semester system translates to 5. If it's a 0.5-unit community college course on the semester system, that translates to 2.5 Woodside credits. I mentioned semester system because the quarter system is different. That is a 1-to-1 translation. So a 1-unit course at Foothill, De Anza would count for 1 Woodside credits, which is not a semester of high school. And then if it's a 4-unit course at Foothill De Anza, it is 4 units at Woodside, 4 credits at Woodside. A 5-unit Foothill De Anza is 5 credits at Woodside. That's speaking specifically about graduation requirements. If we're talking about A to G requirements, however, there are some classes that might count for a full year, but for example, some language courses might count as a full year, but that would be on a case-by-case basis, and you can check in with the counselor for specific examples.
Great. There was another question just in relation to 7th classes and how come there are not open options, why they're so limited. And unfortunately, the reality is our school district only funds schools to offer 6 classes for students. So the 7th classes that we offer are actually fundraised by the foundation. And so that's what gives us the opportunity to offer 7 classes. We just unfortunately we're not able to offer every class as a 7th class, just simply because we don't have the volume and the teacher person power to be able to offer that, nor do we have the space permitted. Some of the courses that we offer require specific spaces, and we can only offer so many in the school day. So unfortunately, that's the circumstance that the reason why we offer few 7th class options. We actually offer, I want to say, the most in the district. So we're fortunate that our foundation has been really vital in opening that up for students. And we continue to look at building programs that are either new to campus or just are vital programs that we just need more people to have access to. One course that I can tell you that's not funded as a 7th class, but it's a new offering because of student interest, is AP Psychology that we'll be offering next year. So that's exciting. Students have brought that to us.
There's a question, will there be a one-year AB BC calculus class in the future?
Not at this point. I believe our math department feels really strong about splitting those into 2 years. And so at this point, there hasn't been any discussion on combining those two. There are students that on occasion will take community college classes to be able to fill in one of those years. But that's again not recommended by our math department at this point.
There's a question, is AP Physics a second year physics course, or can students take it after taking AS Chemistry?
So AP Physics, we offer two AP Physics, AP Physics Mechanics and AP Physics E&M, which is electricity and magnetism. AP Physics Mechanics can be taken right after AS Chemistry, so in the junior year. The only suggested prerequisite we have is that the student is concurrently enrolled in pre-calculus or above, because that AP Physics Mechanics is taught at the calculus level. Now, AP Physics E&M is the second level of AP Physics, and so the requirement is that students would have taken mechanics before they can access E&M.
One of the questions I was typing, but it probably is just better to share out, is that can students take classes at De Anza or other community colleges? Most traditionally, students take it at Skyline, CSM, which is College of San Mateo, and obviously Kenyatta, but they can do it at De Anza, they could do it at Foothill, they could do it really at almost any community college, even though that we kind of recommend more the local ones, traditionally CSM, Skyline, and Kenyatta. Yeah, so they could pretty much take it at any point. They just have to get approval and talk to the school counselor first before they start signing up for it.
And one additional thing I want to add about community college classes, the reason why they can take it at these different campuses or these different colleges is because the majority of the time students will, the only way to make it work is to take online classes. So at Woodside, we wouldn't be able to rearrange your Woodside schedule in order to accommodate a daytime community college class. And so students will either opt to take an evening community college class or an online class. And most students would actually prefer the online version over the evening version.
I think another thing to mention is that we're fortunate enough that we're kind of smack dab in the middle of two community college districts, and so we have access to the San Mateo as well as the Santa Clara. There are students that on occasion take classes even out of our area because they are remote or online classes. But there are restrictions at some community college districts that don't allow students out of the area to take classes. So those are things that your students will just have to be aware of. There's a question about AP Physics E&M. Who's teaching Physics E&M? We don't have the list of teachers teaching courses for next year yet. If we're talking currently teaching E&M, I believe it's Ms. Finnander. No,
I think it's us and
Mr.
Mr. Sagoon.
Mr. Sagoon, who's teaching AP Physics E&M. Thank you.
There's a question about whether the course catalog can be printed. I believe if you go onto the guidance and counseling website, and then on the third tab, graduation requirements, course offerings, there's actually, no, it takes you to the same one. Sorry. I will look into it because I believe the PDF exists somewhere. It just might not be hyperlinked. So there should be a way to print this because this does exist in some other format. We will get back to you on that.
There was a question about can a student drop PE in the 9th grade year and fulfill it later in graduation?
All freshmen are required to take PE, so unfortunately students cannot drop PE in the 9th grade to fulfill it later on. And the list of 7th classes would be on the Woodside website under the tab Guidance and Counseling. The third option is Graduation Requirements / Course Offerings. And there's a hyperlink for a list of eligible 7th courses.
The course catalog is being finalized as we speak by our departments. And so we're hoping to have that on by next week. You should have an updated full course catalog by the, I want to say the start of next week, but sometime next week, it'll be done completely. Well, it looks like that brings us to the end of the questions. We really, really appreciate you spending the time with us. Oh, one last question. When will summer school schedule be posted? It is already out there. I believe Miss Locke put it in the Q&A. Miss Locke, do you have that right in
Yes.
front of you?
Session 1 runs June 12th to July 2nd, and then session 2 runs July 7th to July 24th. Each session is roughly equivalent to 1 semester at Woodside. And we don't usually have we won't typically have a finalized schedule for your individual student, like their course load for the summer, until closer to May. But we will sign up for summer school when we meet with them one-on-one.
So
Computer science.
go ahead.
There's a question about computer science is considered as art. Computer science is a CTE class, so unfortunately it's not an art class. In the past, we had a course at the end of the computer science sequence, advanced animation, but that course is not being offered this year.
There's another question about the sessions. I'm assuming it's probably for summer school if they're identical. There are different courses that are offered first session compared to second session. So typically it's not always the case, but it might be the first semester of a class is offered that first session, and then the second semester is offered the second session. It's not always that way, but sometimes, but it's not exactly identical. Yeah, so that's traditionally how it's broken down.
Perfect. Well, we want to take the opportunity to thank you folks for joining us this evening. On behalf of Ms. Grimaldi, Ms. Locke, and Mr. Thornton, we thank you so much for staying with us tonight and learning a little bit about the registration process. We invite you to reach out to your school counselor, to your student school counselor, to ask any information. But we hope this was helpful. We will post the video online by the end of next week, start of next week. Excuse me, by the end of this week, start of next week, so that you can have access to anything that we've talked about. Again, we invite you to use the website. It's a huge resource that students can use. So thank you again and have an amazing night and stay dry. It's still raining out there.
There's a question of a student's taking a single summer school session class. What is the typical schedule? So if they're taking one session, they will be meeting. School will usually start at 8:30, just like the normal school day, and then it will go until 2 o'clock. And they'll be just taking that one subject for the 14, I believe it's usually 14 days in a row. One session is usually 14 days, so 14 days. Same class. With breaks in between, of course, I think you get a food break. And then I think the teacher will break up the 8:30 to 2 p.m. in a way that's manageable for students.
There's a question. Mr. Negri seems like he's answering it, but I'm sure there might be others that have the same question: is where can you find a list of summer classes? what we're going to do is meet with each student individually and talk to them about which classes that they still need to try to take over the summer. And then our summer schedule is going to be produced based off the need of what students are requesting. So we'll meet with students one-on-one in the next month or two, and we'll discuss all the different options that are available to them. But traditionally, it is our math, English, history classes. Usually like our higher level classes, like an Algebra 2 class isn't offered in person over the summer, but there's other options, as in our Edgenuity program, which is an online credit recovery program, which we're happy to speak more about, maybe offline or maybe with the student individually, whatever might be easiest.
And Mr. Thornton, similar question. Would you know if pre-calculus is going to be an option for summer?
Yeah, so it won't be offered over the summer, but it is offered through Edgenuity. So you can have a student speak to their counselor even as early as now. A student can actually start taking the class now if they wanted to. But they can also do it over the summer, but it will be through our Edgenuity program. It won't be in person, unfortunately.
And Edgenuity in summer school is intended typically for credit recovery. So especially the pre-calculus class, a student who has not taken pre-calculus would not be able to take it to accelerate to AP calculus. The only way to take pre-calculus on Edgenuity is to have earned a D or an F. Those are the only grades that would trigger the ability to do Edgenuity courses. How are students placed in English classes for 10th grade? It is student choice and also family choice. There's no barrier to taking AS English. And so currently in 9th grade English, their English teachers will go over the difference between their 10th grade English options. So English 2 versus AS English 2. And they're invited to ask questions. And so students can just opt in. There's not a requirement that they need to meet in order to sign up for AS English. It is student interest.
There was a question about being able to offer electives in summer school. Unfortunately, we're not funded to offer courses for advancement or for elective purposes. It really is only for recouping graduation requirements, which is the reason why you won't find a lot of the higher level classes being offered in person in summer school. As Mr. Thornton said, you can take online classes to recoup credit that we lost, but not to accelerate. Edgenuity will be offered this summer again to recoup credit that we lost, and counselors will sign the students up. The courses are taken remotely, but tests have to be done on campus, and those will be done during the summer school hours.
And Mr. Negri just answered that second part, is where is Edgenuity online? Students, like Mr. Negri just mentioned, can do the majority of it from home. Those tests and quizzes are done on campus, and there's a computer lab. Another one is how about online classes to make up classes that were skipped over? I'm assuming you're referring to maybe doing a class maybe a student hasn't taken yet. Unfortunately, the only way to do Edgenuity classes is if a student got a D or an F in a class. A student can't, let's say that they haven't done a fine art yet, they can't do that class on Edgenuity. It's only if they've taken that class already and received a D or an F. It's more for remediation, it's not for acceleration.
The only class that we've offered in the past for acceleration that I believe we'll still offer this year is geometry. In that circumstance, students are permitted to take it over the summer for the 6 weeks, which is a year-long geometry class. I believe that's going to be offered. We're still finalizing our summer school options. My guess is by the end of next week, or by the time we get back from midwinter break, we'll have finalized the offerings for summer as far as any acceleration courses that will be there. So there was a question, student wants to work during the summer. Do you have any suggestions for the student where to start or how to prepare for interviews, complete applications, and find references?
Yeah, I can answer that. College and Career Center is a great place to start. they usually have all the different resources. They have a lot of different job opportunities for students. They also have work permits for students as well. So that's a great place to start. We actually have an online system that we're introducing this year called School Links, where students can also work on resumes and how to actually format resumes and things like that. So there's a lot of really great tools that we're going to introduce to students soon. But I would still say the best place to start would be college and career advisors. They'll be more than happy to meet with students during brunch or lunch or setting up a meeting if you email them, and then they can help prepare students for those interviews and how to format their resumes and all those type of questions there.
There was a question about special scholarships or awards that families should know about now to be able to work towards.
I would say similarly, College and Career Center, they usually have a newsletter that they email out. So for juniors and seniors, they usually have a junior and senior newsletter that they email to families and students that has a list of a ton of different scholarships. Also through that School Links program that we're going to introduce this year, there's going to be a list of different scholarships as well on that website. So those are two ways, and then just obviously meeting with the college and career advisor. They are great with finding different resources and different scholarships and different ways to help pay for school for students. So that would be probably first place to start is college and career.
Yeah, they do post the list of scholarships that are available in the newsletter, and that newsletter is posted online, so you can take a look at that early to be able to kind of gauge what you might apply for in the senior year. One that I always like to promote is the Sequoia Awards for families that live in Redwood City. It's a $5,000 or $10,000 award given to students that get involved. So it doesn't require any coursework. It really is how they interact with the community and provide or offer service to the community. And so it's a great opportunity, and they offer quite a number of them. So we have students every year winning. So that would be one that I'd promote early on.
I'm gonna add, there's a question about maybe there was another answer that was given about how to maybe do pre-calculus as an accelerator. It's rare that I've had students do a pre-calculus class over the summer, and the few times that I've had students do pre-calculus over the summer, it it didn't really prepare them for that next level of maybe AP Calc. So I'm always hesitant to do it. But if a student did want to do a class that we don't offer over the summer, they might have to look at maybe another institution. We don't traditionally promote those because there usually is a cost for those. But there are institutions that are out there that students can take to maybe do a pre-calculus class, for instance. But I would just use a little bit of caution just because I've seen in the past that it hasn't prepared students as well, because the curriculum is not the same as what we offer. So we can't guarantee that it's going to best prepare them for that next level, especially if they're thinking about like an AP Calc or something along those lines.
And currently the community colleges don't offer Algebra 2 or pre-calculus anymore as an option for students. So it would be difficult to accelerate without doing it privately. All right. Well, again, we thank you so much, and reach out to your school counselor if there's anything that we can do or any further questions that we could help. Thank you again for joining us tonight.